Hello, hello, and welcome back to the 100 Jobs Project. I'm your host, Katie Monson-Gant, and we are joined today by a fabulous friend of mine. Claire is a friend of mine from college. She happens to live in the DC area with me, and she is a senior campus recruiter. So hello, Claire.
Hi. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm so excited to get dinner with you in a few weeks and actually have a full catch up. So many people have questions about just the whole recruiting space, whether they are applying to jobs or whether they want to go into that space. And I feel like you have a really unique story to share because your path to recruiting was a little bit different and you've totally made a fabulous career out of it for yourself. Can you tell the folks where you're from, what you do?
So yeah, I've been in recruiting for a while. I live out in DC. I was telling Katie I just moved. So I'm kind of chaotic all over the place and I'm just kicking off traveling again for work. I travel a ton in the fall. So next week I'm in Chicago or actually I keep saying that I'm in Nashville, Chicago, Ohio, kind of going all over again, heading into the holidays. But I'm also a fitness instructor on the side. So that's another fun thing.
Literally the coolest person that I know. And I'm so excited to go to some of the holiday classes that you have coming up. Those are my absolute favorite. Speaking of traveling, you really are quite the jet setter. I would love to know, as we're coming up to the holidays, let's say you are taking a hypothetical New Year's trip. Are you picking a cozy ski vacation, little cabin, little fire, or are you going all out to the beach?
I've never gone to the beach in the holiday time frame. I'm from one of those families that's you have to do the traditional Christmas. We've never done tropical vacation in that time of year. So I probably would pick, I don't ski, but I'd probably pick cozy cabin. My grandparents live in the mountains. And so that's what we always did. We were always up in the mountains, just reading a book, snuggled up by the fire.
We're at the very beginning of winter now. So I'm kind of feeling ready for some of the winter vibes. Ask me again in February and I will be like, take me to the beach immediately. But a cozy little winter vacation.
Be pitch black by the time this ends.
Oh, I know.
It gets dark so early.
Oh,
I hate it. It's the worst.
Yeah, daylight savings really does us all dirty. Forgetting about daylight savings, it is brighter and lighter in the morning. In the morning, when you were getting back breakfast, do you have a go-to breakfast lately that you are reaching for?
I am the worst with breakfast. I usually teach or work out in the morning. So today, actually, I had a Uncrustable. That's my new thing on the way to work out. Little pre-workout snack. So I had an Uncrustable, but I'm a drink gal. So I'm always drinking the drink. So on the way this morning, I had electrolytes and creatine. I got home. I mixed BCAAs with my caffeinated greens. Had a protein drink. And then my go-to is really basic. It's just Greek yogurt, a protein bar, and some berries.
Drinks are a supreme way to go in the morning. And I feel especially if you're working out and you're able to rehydrate, caffeinate a little bit, take care of that, you're going to be set up for a happy day.
As I have 2 drinks right now.
One more chit chat question, and then let's get into it. This is something that I want to ask all of my guests that are on here. I want to know what is in your work bag, or, if you're working from home more often, are there a couple things at your desk that you are always reaching for?
I don't go in often. I go in occasionally, but I take my purse in my work bag. And I feel I have a couple tried and trues that I'm always reaching for in general. One is my AirPods. 2, I am a slut for Touchland hand sanitizer. It is just I'm constantly spraying it. I can see mine on the table right next to me. It's $10 for a little hand sanitizer, but it's life-changing. I actually made our company swag for career fairs. I duped that. So that was it. And then my third one is the Tower 28 face spray. I'm constantly spraying the hyaluronic acid on my face.
Wait, the hyaluronic acid or the hypochlorous acid?
Probably the hyperchlorous. You probably know.
No, sorry to call you out on that one. I just went down a deep dive lately because I use the Tower 28 hypochlorous acid spray. That's the one that's just a little refresh and it kills all the bacteria on your face.
Okay, yeah. So it's hyperchlorous. I'm saying it wrong.
It really does make you feel so good.
Yeah.
The Touchland hand sanitizer too, such a genius idea. Do you know how much money that company has made? And they just
have you looked into it?
I have. It's been maybe a month, but I think they were sold recently or something. It was millions and millions of dollars.
That's insane.
Let me actually look it up. Touchland.
I literally have one. Why are you looking that up? I have one in my desk. I have one in my work bag, my gym bag, my car. I literally have one everywhere. to constantly use it. They're on sale. If you're shopping the Sephora sale, they have like the 5-pack, 20% off. That's where I always buy it. Stock up for the year ahead.
Hold on to your horses because this is wild. Touchland's net worth was valued at $880 million in May 2025 after it was just acquired.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Hand sanitizer.
So thank you for sharing what is in your work bag. Those are some fabulous favorites to be reaching for all the time. And I hope if you are listening that maybe you either, found some products that you're interested in checking out, or were just reaffirmed that you have good taste. So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk about your career, but I am also hoping that you can debunk a few recruiting HR things for me. Do recruiters actually spend like 6 to 10 seconds looking at a resume?
That's a good question. When I used to work at Goldman Sachs, it was pretty quick. I would say yes.
Okay.
That was true. I would say yes, and it depends because I'm in campus recruiting. So as just like a brief overview, I'm hiring college students for internships or fresh out of college starting. And right now I'm primarily recruiting in the accounting sphere. So I'm recruiting for assurance, tax, and consulting roles with accounting majors. So on my end, I'm wanting to see what their graduation timeline is, if they're actually studying accounting and kind of what experience they have. And not just in internships, but like in clubs, leadership, sports, kind of what they are as a person. And you can do that pretty quickly.
Okay.
If I was on the experienced hire side where I have a role posted, because I'm hiring a bunch of kids, right?
Sure.
Like this summer alone, I was looking for just 10 audit interns in one office. And I've got several offices, several service lines. But if you are applying to a new role in your field, right, in marketing or whatever it is you're looking for, that recruiter is going to be spending more time because they're looking for specific things. They're wanting to see if you have, the 5 to 7 years of experience that's listed, what leadership roles you've had. Maybe if you've used their specific like technologies that they're going to have you use in that role. I also think AI plays a really big factor in being able to read things out.
I was going to ask you that too. I mean, do keywords and stuff actually filter people out on like automated software?
Yes. So I'm not currently using that in my role, but I know a lot of people that are and that you easily can. And I think you can even just make it like pretty generic because I get a lot of applications all the time where how my data pulls through. If I look at it and your major is econ, like I'm not looking at your resume.
Sure.
If your major is, X, Y, and Z, and it's not accounting, that's not going to help me. So there's a lot of different AI softwares that you can set up to get kind of that first pass.
Okay, so put the keywords on your application, people. You heard it here first.
I think the biggest, whenever I'm helping someone, because someone texted me today who's going to be at the studio where I teach tomorrow morning. And she's like, I need your help with my LinkedIn and with my resume. And constantly I'm telling people, if you have a job posting that you're applying to, like those bullet points of what they're looking for, that better be on your resume.
Right.
Being able to show what they're looking for is what you've done.
Tailoring your resume definitely can go a long way rather than just having your resume, sending it to everyone. It does take some extra time and it takes an extra step to look through exactly what they're looking for. But I've definitely seen that work wonders as well. And then it's a good talking point. If you get your foot in the door, if you get an interview, then, you talk about what they're looking for and you already have that prepared and ready to go. On that front too, photos. Are photos on resume a no-no?
Where have you seen that photo on a resume or what made you think to bring that up?
At some point when I was in Marriott, I was talking to someone who was somewhere and they said, don't ever put a photo on a resume because it was starting to be a little more common in like the creative space of people who wanting to like share what they look like. But the rationale that I heard was if there is a photo, it automatically disqualifies you because then like there could be some grounds for discrimination claims.
Where I work and my personal opinion, I don't have a rule. I agree. I think some of like the advertising, marketing type people, creative juices have photos and that like is how they do it. I think in a professional space, there's not a need.
Agreed.
I just don't see the benefit in it. They're going to see you in the first or second round of interviews.
The high school glam shot, keep that for your yearbook. Yeah.
We have moved past high school. This is concerning.
Okay, let's debunk one more question for me and then we'll get into your career. Cover letters. I would love to know your take.
Some jobs, if they require a cover letter, then you've got to write that cover letter. Others
Okay.
don't. I do not write cover letters. the same was true at Goldman Sachs. So I actually haven't worked anywhere that has required a cover letter. I think if you have the time to put in like a specific letter to why you think you're good for the role, then that's great. They might read them, they might not. Now, if you're applying to a company that's maybe well known, or even if it's not, there's Reddit, there's Glassdoor.
Totally.
You can maybe find out from someone else what insights they've gotten or someone said something.
Totally see where you're coming from, though, on cover letters being really dependent. I can see if you're applying to like a smaller company or like a place in your hometown or something, that cover letter really coming in handy, because maybe someone's getting 10 applications and maybe they'll actually read like what sets you apart. But if you are going for a bigger corporate job, unless you have like a connection there and you're able to email someone directly, then might not do a lot of good for you.
The best way to get a job is to know someone and to have an in. So it's like if you've sent your resume over and made a connection with, even if they're not even in the department you're applying to, they're going to reach out to recruiting and connect you. So life's about connections, don't burn bridges, right? And that's how you're going to get. It's the easiest way to get a job.
It's so true. I'm learning that more and more the older that I get. And it doesn't have to be like a hard thing. Like you can find someone and just reach out on your own accord, not necessarily like, hey, I would like a job, but hey, like you are doing something that I would love to do. Can you share with me a little bit about your journey? And people more often than not are really excited to be a mentor and to help and to guide.
Everyone loves to talk about themselves. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you're emailing someone being like, hey, can I hear about your career? Can I hear about your journey? I want to know what it's like. Like people want to hear it.
Talking to the girl who bought herself a microphone. People love to talk about themselves.
The microphone, the headset, she looks great.
Let's talk a little bit about not just me, but let's talk about you. What did you want to be when you were younger?
I was with a friend and her family, and we were asking the kids at the dinner table, like, what do you want to be? And the 10-year-old was like, want to be a YouTuber. The little daughter wanted to be a princess. Like, I don't remember those answers. Like a doctor of this. I just remember my favorite movie was, why am I blanking? Made in Manhattan. And I wanted to be a maid. I wanted to be a maid. I thought J-Lo made being a maid and Made in Manhattan like the most glamorous thing ever. And that was like the first job I remember saying, like, I wanted to do that.
I'm screaming. That's amazing.
It's so weird. That was the first thing I remember. And then going into college, for some reason, I was thinking accounting. And so, I mean, now I'm recruiting accountants. So it's funny, but I literally only took the first intro class to accounting and then quickly changed my major. So I don't know. I was kind of all over the place. I always had the personality that likes to talk, likes to, engage and be with people. So people are always like, you shouldn't do accounting. Like you need to utilize that. And that's kind of what led me to public relations, marketing.
Again, this is not about me, but I gave myself a mic. And so now I'm talking about myself. We went to we saw like a dolphin show or something when I was really little. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And so for maybe like 4 or 5 years, I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist so that I can save the dolphins that get hurt and need help. And that obviously did not happen.
It was like when I watched Legally Blonde, like we've all had those moments where it's like you went to a dolphin show, wanted to be a marine biologist. I watched Legally Blonde, thought I wanted to go to law school, wanted to be a lawyer. Like we were all going to do it. But of course, I didn't actually want to do that.
Definitely. I know we actually need to hear from like people who actually work in jobs rather than just television or just dolphin shows. So, accounting, you said you took a course in college and you like quickly were like, this is not for me. How did you start thinking about what you wanted to do instead?
I remember I don't know if I wrote it in like an application essay or what, but I remember thinking about like when I walk into a store, like I love to shop. You walk into Anthropologie, you walk into Target, you walk into Lululemon, like they have created an experience for you to sell your product, to sell their products to you, to make you want them or feel like you need them. And that was something that I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be a part of Anthropologie where you walk in and you smell the scent and oh, I need to go buy that candle, and you see the jeans and how they've styled it, different things like that. That was originally what drew me to kind of the marketing public relations aspect of, I guess you could say, selling things, like sales. And so that was super intriguing to me. And I've always loved clothes. I thought I was going to go the fashion route. I don't know if I've told you about this, but I had an internship in New York City for a summer. And it was through our PR program. They were like set up, but I didn't want to go to the one that was like set up for me by our professor because it was not paid. So I'm like searching for a PR internship. I'd had a connection at Gap at the time. It didn't end up working out, which is like biggest regret, but found my own. It was at a PR fashion agency. I was literally running errands. Like I was dropping off UPS and USPS packages, crying on the phone in New York City. And I'm like, I could go work at the post office and make more money. So that was a very short-lived experience in fashion. I'd literally quit after 2 days, interviewed at like a healthcare PR firm and interned there for the summer and got paid. But I thought I wanted to go into fashion just because I love it so much. And I think it would have been like really cool, but it's hard to get in places. These, you know, the reputable brands that I just mentioned, you need to know someone and you need to kind of have the timing right. So that was my original interest in getting into PR, getting into marketing. I think we learned a lot, especially our senior year when we worked. Oh, actually, we were not even in the same class. I did the Marriott capstone. Did you?
No, I didn't. I did a different one.
Okay. So like, I just feel like we had great experiences in our program to learn about marketing and social media and different things like that. And that was my senior year. I worked for an MLM and I did social media for them. And I stayed on after I graduated for about 6 months. And then that's how I pivoted into recruiting, which I know is like the next step. So
yeah. Well, one quick question too about college. What made you pick PR over marketing?
I feel like this is so niche and you will get it, but I knew I was not going to get into the business school with Econ 110 and all the grades for the classes that we had to take. And so I chose PR, and a professor convinced me that it was a better idea.
I forgot about that. I never really like considered that program, but I know that it had, and I think part of why I didn't consider that program was because it had a lot more mathy requirements. And at one point I was like, I am just not interested in doing this. And I also had my own ideas about PR and shaping perception and wanting to be involved in that side of building a brand and building an experience. I'm always curious for people who are invested and interested in those two things, you know, why do you pick one over the other? And they are very similar. I guess I didn't realize that you were working in a social media role for our senior year of school. How did you get that, and how did you jump from that into recruiting?
So I interned in New York the summer before our senior year. And I remember like halfway through, I'm like, all right, like I need to get a job, right? I want fun money. I need a job, right? For senior year. And so you start looking at, and a lot of people had like the typical jobs on campus, but I had never done that. Like my first job in college was working at like I don't want to say a consulting firm. It was this woman who basically hosted business retreats and like trained people on how to be an entrepreneur and how to start businesses. And I started in like an event coordinator role, and then I was doing a little bit of HR stuff. So I'd always had more of like a professional corporate job. So I started looking for jobs that summer when I was in New York. I didn't want to go back to that same company. And there was this MLM. I mean, they're all MLMs, right? Selling health products that had a posting for, they were launching a new fitness program and they were looking for someone to help with social media and with marketing. And it was $16 an hour. And I remember in college, like most of the jobs on campus were like 10, 12, like $16 an hour was what stuck out to me.
Totally. This is pre-COVID inflation.
And so I interviewed and I got it. And it was, you know, I was in a cubicle. I worked with one person that was trying to launch this program, and it had some pros and cons. We learned some things, but I had it all senior year. That last semester, I only had capstone. So I worked like 30-ish hours. It was like basically a full-time job.
Every job you get does not have to be a dream job. Like, there are definitely jobs that are for the paycheck and that are stepping stones and that are for experience and that launch you to where you want to end up. So,
which I remember being in that job and like struggling. Because I mean, when you're graduating college, you're like, I want to go to this fun city. Like I wanted to go to New York. I didn't want to go back to the internship I had. Again, I was interviewing for a role at Gap that didn't work out, and just things weren't clicking. And looking back, if I'd ended up in New York, I'm sure it would have worked out and been fine. But like that wasn't what I needed or what I wanted. And so I had that. Like I had a backup, right? I stayed at that job. We graduated in April. And I don't even know if we graduated.
I think we graduated. Yeah. When would that have been?
2018?
Yeah.
Graduated in April, and I stayed at that job through, I gave my notice in November. So literally almost the exact same timing.
Okay, so you had your job lined up. You didn't just quit willy-nilly. Is that where does DC come into the picture?
That is still 2018. I didn't move to DC till 4 years ago.
Took a little break, quick little break, got to reset, refresh, clear some old juju out, and then tell me about the new job that you started.
So this is how I randomly got into recruiting. So I had been applying to like marketing, PR, social media type roles. I remember I interviewed with, like all the Utah swimwear brands. I think it was Lime Ricky.
Yeah.
I got to like the last round with Lime Ricky. I almost started working there doing marketing. And LinkedIn was like just kind of becoming popular. And a recruiter reached out to me about a campus recruiting coordinator role at Goldman Sachs in the Salt Lake office. And my dad is in HR. He's still in HR. Had various roles within HR over the course of my career, my life. And so I'd always like thought about recruiting in the back of my mind, but I'm like, how do you get into recruiting? Like, that's kind of the random thing, right? Like, yeah, there's like an HR major, but like, you don't really go to school to become a recruiter or anything. So I went through a couple stages of interviews. The last one was meeting, like the people I would have been supporting in the office in Salt Lake. And there was definitely the prestige of like Goldman Sachs, and it was something new, something exciting. And I was like, do you know what? This is a great opportunity to learn about recruiting and have this name on my resume and see how it goes and see if I like it. And they had a unique setup. I think I know a lot of the large companies, a lot of the big four, do it similar where they outsource a coordination type role through a different company. So I technically was employed by ADP. But I sat on site at Goldman Sachs, had a Goldman email, traveled on behalf of Goldman Sachs, all those things. So it was super random. A recruiter reached out to me, figured might as well try, see if I like it. It started in December. I was like, I'll give it 6 months.
What was it after that 6 months that made you feel like this was a place that I want to stay?
Every season in campus recruiting is different. And so there's always kind of something new to learn. And it's not till you've been in a role for a full year in a cyclical job like this where you feel confident. So I would like get comfortable with something and then something new would come and I'd try again. And I just thrived. I'm very type A. I thrived with the deadlines. I thrived. Everyone that I worked with in my experience there wanted to be there, right? Like if you weren't a go-getter, not everyone was type A, but if you weren't a go-getter type A on your shit, you weren't succeeding. You weren't going to last. And so there was this culture of success around you. And I genuinely enjoyed the people that I was working with.
That's amazing. Did you ever feel the corporate grind while you were there?
Oh yeah. So for those who are in Utah, they'll get it. I lived in Pleasant Grove and I commuted on the highway every single day to downtown Salt Lake and back. And so I listened to so many audiobooks. I wasn't a podcast girly, but so many audiobooks just driving up and down I-15 North and abusing that fast track lane like it was my job.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Fall busy season when we're traveling and interviewing, it's intense. It's a lot. I cried a lot.
That's how it goes. Now, those long drives and listening to audiobooks, is that what got you into reading? Because I know you're a big reader too.
I remember as a kid loving to read. Did you ever read the Click series? The covers were plaid. Were you a big reader?
I was a big reader. I don't know if I read those. I'm going to have to search through my memory bank.
This was right before, younger than Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl books were dirty though. I never really got into those. I got into the show, but not the book. But I loved reading. And then school kind of took over, we took AP classes in high school, college, you're busy. So that summer after I graduated college, I was living in Utah. I didn't love my job. And I was just kind of I don't want to say I was just existing, but I was kind of just there. And that's when I rediscovered my love for reading. I think that summer. I remember being up in Bear Lake with family and going through several books and just started reading. And then the commute, definitely, that's when I first found audiobooks.
That's a testament to the fact that really good things can come out of hard things. I mean, you're in the corporate grind, you're figuring out if you want to stay in this role, and then this beautiful hobby emerges that is then carried with you like for years and years and years and years. Let's talk a little bit about DC now. So you were at Goldman for 3 years, and then what happened to shift you over to this side of the country? Because that's a big move, especially for a California girl.
So COVID happened, vibes kind of on just the teams I was working out, the people I was supporting, things shifted. I think it was really hard in the beginning of COVID to figure out how to recruit and how to host events in a virtual space. So I wasn't as fulfilled as I was, when we were in person. And so I kind of coasted that first summer. It was the tannest I'd ever been at the pool. It was amazing. And then by the next year, it was like January, February, there's just some things in my personal life where I was like, do you know what? What am I doing here? But I could be anywhere and I'm coasting essentially, like, let's try something new. It's a really unique position to be in when you don't have a husband, you don't have kids, and you could take your job anywhere, right? Like I could have gone anywhere. And so I started applying kind of all over. I got to the very last stage of Book of the Month. Have you heard of Book of the Month? Yeah. So now I'm like, I love Book of the Month, and I have done it for a couple months, but I'm on pause right now because I have not been reading. But that would have been in New York, and that would have been like an HR generalist role. So I would have been doing like a little bit of recruiting and a little bit of all sorts of things. But I was a little intimidated. I was like, I've lived in Salt Lake for 3-4 years, have my car. I want my car. I didn't want to live in the city. I interviewed for some roles in San Francisco, kind of any major city I was open to. And then I applied to some in DC. My freshman year roommate lived out here at the time. She had gone through a divorce and she needed a reset, and she moved to DC and she loved it. There was just a great community of people. So I came out, and it was Mother's Day of 2021. I came out and visited her. At the time, I don't remember if I had my offer yet for where I technically moved here for, but I loved it. It was fun. There was a lot going on. East Coast vibes were fun. So I was interviewing with a tech company. I thought switching to tech was, the bright, shiny toy, better pay, better benefits, free lunch. And I took the job. I started remotely in July in DC in Utah. And then I eventually drove out September. I got here the day before I think it was like my 27th birthday. And I quickly realized I moved across the country for a job that I did not like, but it was fine because I loved the rest of my life. It was like interesting. I found friends really quickly. I moved into a house with some girls that I didn't know, but like we had mutual friends. So I had a social network really fast. I eventually found my way to a gym community, but I was like pretty miserable in my job. So I lasted about 9 months, the tale of the bad boss. We've all had a bad boss. But anyway, me and my coworker that were both here at this company quit within a couple weeks of each other. I found the role I'm in now, and I've been here for over 3.5 years.
DC is a cool city too, because you have DC, and in the city, like you can definitely metro around, you can walk around. But then DC is also like built on so many little suburbs and communities that are really, really accessible. So you can still have your car. It's very much like a driving city. It's not just a metro city.
That's when we reconnected, because you and I hadn't talked in years. And then suddenly I was out here and we auditioned for a fitness class, teaching a fitness class together.
We did.
World. But
yeah, we haven't talked about the whole high fitness of it all. When did you start teaching fitness classes?
Did you play sports as a kid?
I did play sports as a kid.
What did you play?
Oh my gosh. Well, my parents made me do everything, and I was never good at anything. The things that I ended up doing in high school were I ran cross country, I swam. My mom was a competitive swimmer, and so she started like my whole family swimming when we were really, really young. And so I swam, and then I played tennis.
I did elementary school age, I tried all the sports, right? I did the soccer, I did the softball, I did the tennis camps, but I never felt like I was never good at any of it. I hated running. I didn't actually like any of it. And so in high school, I started at a kickboxing gym by my house and made friends. And that was like my first exposure to group fitness. And I loved it. And then in college, I found like a CrossFit gym. So I kind of had established that like my version of working out. And I didn't come from a household that was like super workout heavy or like pro, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't part of my day to day. I was in like choir and I liked to read. And so I just wasn't very active, but I realized that group fitness was what motivated me to want to go to the gym for the right reasons. And right before COVID, it was 2020, this coworker that I mentioned that I became best friends with invited me to a high fitness class. And I went and I hated it. It was so hard. I'm like, I look like an idiot. I didn't dance. I don't know choreography. My feet hurt. And I think I went to one more and then COVID shut down. So technically my gym stayed open. It was Utah County. Everything went. But I was like, we were all terrified of this, virus that was spreading. So I was working out in my gym. And I started doing these. For those that don't know, high fitness is like aerobics brought back to popular music. So it's like a mix of Zumba, a mix of HIIT, but it's choreographed workouts or choreography to popular music. You've got burpees, tuck jumps, jumping jack.
Like choreographed squats and stuff.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
It's so fun.
I love it so much more than Zumba, because Zumba, I can never like salsa my hips, right? But I'm like, yeah, I can do a squat and I can like do some punches and I can jump. Or step if I'm modifying and I'm not jumping.
So I started doing that in my garage because it was like they had it on YouTube or they had some Zoom classes. And the more I did it consistently, the more I was like, this is really fun. I started doing outdoor classes. And that just kind of became, I stayed in Utah for like another year. I found high fitness and I started hiking. Like I had hated the outdoors, hated getting dirty, and just like found this passion for hiking and being outside. But anyway, I really got into high fitness, started going all the time, and decided randomly that I was going to certify, not even knowing what that meant. And then suddenly I was moving. And so I got here, and that's kind of how you and I reconnected, was finding a class, finding a place to go. And I just lucked out where there was a studio where the owner had been on Instagram. She was kind of a social media influencer, had seen it in Utah because a lot of, the influencers are doing it, and brought it to her studio. And I just happened to go in, auditioned, started teaching. And that is like my second home here, where like some of my bestest friends are from that studio, and never thought I'd teach. That was the first place I've taught. I now teach several different formats, and really just, that's become like a passion.
For context for anyone, I also found those classes when I was in college in Utah. One of my friends was a teacher, so I went to her classes all the time. When we moved out here to DC, I missed it so much. And so I finally was like, you know what? Why don't I just certify and teach? And so I certified to become an instructor, I think like March 2nd or something, 2020. It was the last class they taught before everything shut down like 2 weeks later with COVID. And so, I don't know, a year or so later, Clara and I met up. We went and auditioned to teach at the studio. The one that we both auditioned at was a little closer to me. And I think I ended up teaching there for a little while, and you ended up teaching at the studio that you're at, which is like the cutest studio in all time.
I was not invited back from the audition. Katie was. And Katie started teaching there, but we both started teaching.
Sometimes I feel like things like that just work out the way that they're supposed to. I've been thinking that I need to start teaching a little bit again, because some of my instructor discounts that I have gotten on clothing are expiring. And so I need to start adding a few classes back so that I can re-up my discounts, get my cute clothes for cheaper. So I'll keep you posted when I start teaching more. And I love that you have figured out a way to incorporate fitness and having that side of what you love with your work. How are you able to balance those two things, being a fitness instructor and also having your 9 to 5?
If I had to go into an office every single day, like I likely wouldn't be able to teach, but I have a very flexible job where I'm, sick, like it's seasons where I'm busy. I'm gone the next couple weeks traveling for work. September, I was pretty much gone all of September, but when it's not my crazy, insane season, it's really easy for me to, like yesterday I subbed an 8 a.m. class. I was online by 9:30 and able to get things done. And in my role, I have a lot of autonomy. I'm responsible for certain markets and certain job recs that have to get filled. And if I don't do my job, it will be very obvious. It's just, choosing what works for you.
If there's something that you love, you find time for it in your life, even if it's a little bit inconvenient or you have to make some concessions, like maybe you're going to bed a little bit earlier. Some of those trade-offs really can help you find a balance that works for you. Do you have a few more minutes to tell me a little bit about your day-to-day now?
That's a good question. Whenever someone asks me, like, what is your day-to-day like? I'm like, what type of day-to-day should I reference?
In my brain, recruiters just like sit and look at resumes all day and put job postings up. But I know it's so much more than that. So like, what is it?
So I think, again, caveat, I am recruiting college students to start, internships or start right out of college. So very different. It is November 6th. So we're kind of coming to the end of fall busy season. So I've filled most of my roles. And right now I am starting to plan and prepare for the interns and the new hires that start in January. So today I was going through and extending or reviewing a bunch of offer letters for approval for a firm that we just acquired that are going to start in January. So making sure all of their, location, compensation, how many hours they're going to work, their start date, all of that flowed into our new system correctly, and reviewing those offer letters to go in and get submitted. I have a couple stragglers for roles that didn't get filled, candidates that we extended offers to declined, so we didn't hit target. So I'm scheduling a couple one-off interviews for next week that have come in through like different referrals. Next week, I'm going to a women's conference in Nashville. So just different things like that. I also have a few classroom visits that have happened this week. So I had 2 professionals that presented virtually Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So I had to prep them for that, ordered all the catering, had some of my former interns go, checking in on things like that. I have another one that's happening next week. Had one that happened yesterday. So following up with some students that met our team on campus, getting them the right information they need.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And I know that you're traveling a lot. Are you typically traveling to college fairs and talking to people on campuses in their space?
Yeah. So I recruit for the DC market. So if you're familiar with DC, you've heard of Virginia Tech and James Madison University. Those are the 2 schools that I go to every fall and every spring. You would find me at an accounting specific career fair. So we've got a booth, we've got our swag, and then I'm also responsible for our Boston market. So I went on like a week-long trip to Boston, traveled to a bunch of schools I'd never heard of, but we acquired a firm that is up there. So met different students who are studying accounting and finance up there, and literally went to 3 different career fairs in 3 days. And the same thing. So telling people about our company, what our values are, our different rules that are open, encouraging them to apply online. A lot of spot checking of like, do you have the right grad date for this role? Are you planning on having the right credit hours to sit for a CPA exam? Different things like that probably sound really boring, but getting them into the system, making sure they apply, and then interview scheduling from there and kind of walking them through the process. So from the first contact I have on, planning the events on campus, staffing the professionals to go, speaking with the students, getting them into the system, having them apply, interview, offers go out, and then planning the internship programs.
It's a lot to be responsible for. What I'm hearing too is that you do a lot of talking to people. So anyone who doesn't like yapping, steer clear of recruiting. This is not for you. Now, for anyone who is interested in recruiting, either someone who is fresh out of college or thinking about pivoting, what is something that you would tell them to get started?
Any career, whether it's, recruiting or you're interested in going to dental school, you need to talk to people that are in it. So you need to hear what what's the phrase, like your peak and your pit, or
yeah, like your roses and thorns, like your highs and lows.
Like, what do you love about your job and what do you hate? And if what they consider they hate is something that you're okay with, then that works. So you definitely have to be someone that can communicate and can talk a lot, because that's what I'm doing. You have to manage a lot of different balls in the air. My quote unquote clients are the stakeholders of the firm. They're the partners that are hiring these people, and I have to make sure I deliver. It's essentially, I don't want to say it's a sales role, but I'm going to campuses and I'm trying to convince people why they should work for us and why they should come here. So that's kind of what ties into, and I think originally why a recruiter reached out to me, is the PR marketing background. You're very well educated on how to communicate and how to present yourself and your product. That ties really well into recruiting.
Just another example of, a few different things. Your degree is not always going to be what you end up in, and that is amazing. It's a stepping stone that will teach you skills regardless of what they are, that will, propel you to the next step. And to your point of talking with people, I would maybe add, like, just after a conversation, talk to people at different levels, because if you are working for someone who is recruiting for a smaller company, or maybe not in a big primary city, like that is going to look very different than someone who is working in DC or New York or Boston or LA. So like, talk to people in both worlds. And then it sounds like there's options too. If you want to travel, maybe you go like a campus advisory route. If you don't want to travel, you want to be a homebody, you want to work for home, there's other options for you too. But it sounds like this is overall just a really versatile field with a lot of opportunities.
I feel like it's one thing, like, when you're in college or even growing up, it's like, what doctors do, what dentists do, what accountants do. But I feel like HR in general is one thing where there's a lot of different roles in human resources for a lot of different skill sets and personalities that we don't get a lot of exposure to. And it's worth looking into, whether it's recruiting or benefits or, being a business partner, dealing with all of like the HR compliance side of things. There's a lot of different opportunities for people in roles like that.
There are so many roles, like you said, doctors, lawyers, accountants, that are cut and dry. You know what they do. But there are so many other things that we just don't have exposure to. And I wish I had that exposure. And so thank you so much for your time, bringing that exposure to me, but also to, anyone who tunes in and listens. Thank you again for being on the podcast. And thank you, if you're listening, for tuning in today. You can find us online at 100jobsproject.com or on Instagram at 100jobs. Give us a shout out over there if there's anything that you loved from today's episode or anything that you want to learn more about in the future. And I will do my best to find someone who can help you learn more about a role or a job that you're interested in. And thank you so much. Talk to you next time. Tune in weekly on Wednesdays. That's the new tagline. Hit subscribe weekly on Wednesdays. We are out.